Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am a very hoarse version of myself. I am Ron Luce, getting over a little bit of a sinus and head cold over the last couple of days that has now gone to my chest. So please bear with me on this episode. But we are here on Monday. It's an off day. It's about lunchtime for most people, or just a bit at the end of your lunch hour. And we're here to talk about the Cubs weekend. We are here to talk about the upcoming series with the Minnesota Twins. And of course, we're going to go into plenty about the All-Star selections and non-selections for your Chicago Cubs. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in with us, whether it's live here on the YouTube, like subscribe, hit that bell button if you're following along, or of course, if you're listening to this when it comes out in audio version, we appreciate you there as well and hope you give us some love and some commentary and some feedbacks and all that good stuff that goes along with it. I will warn everybody, there will be a lot of tea breaks, as I'm about to take one right here, right now. Oh, that's a little better. And a lot of water breaks, but we're going to make through it. We're going to get through it all together. And we're going to start with pretty plain and simple, FTFC. And that is the part of the name of today's episode. It's a double doses of Fugazi. We got Redbirds and All Stars is the name of today's show. FTFC, fuck the Fugazi Cardinals. Cubs take care of business in the 3-game series. Honestly, could have been a sweep, especially given Saturday's outcome. The first really bad outing that we've seen from Brad Keller as a member of this Cubs bullpen. And still, they get the job done. Nick and I talked about it a little bit on Thursday's show of, try and get at least 5 out of 6. If you take 5 out of 6 after, I think what most people would consider an unsuspecting sweep of the Guardians, that's a really good spot to be with, again, 6 more games until the All-Star break. Now you look at it, they go 5-1. They could have gone 6-0 on the homestand. The 4th of July holiday was good to the Cubbies. And you had a couple of huge blowout wins, which were awesome when it's all said and done for the Cubs. Even in a losing effort, still putting up the amount of runs they did in that 8-6 loss on Saturday. Huge scoring weekend for the Cubs, 28 total runs over the course of 3 games. And only allowing 11 with, again, 8 of those coming in one game. A testament to how good this Cubs team is, a testament to where things stand right now with this Cubs team, and just really how much fun that they've been to watch, right? We get Friday's game. Spectacular. Record set for the franchise. Number of home runs hit, 8 in a game. Michael Busch had 3 of them. PCA had a couple. How cool is that? Exactly, Jay, you're reading my mind as we get started on it. Setting a Wrigley home run record. That's awesome. That's so cool. And you do it against the Cardinals. It just makes it feel even better when it's all said and done. Again, Dansby Swanson, Carson Kelly both got involved in the action in the onslaught in Friday's game, as did Seiya Suzuki, who we are going to talk about ad nauseum here in a little bit. But what a game. What a game. 13 total hits. 8 of those 13 hits coming from just P. Crow Armstrong and Michael Busch themselves. The power comes from everywhere else. It's a good game when John Birdie's coming in and pitching the 9th inning. You're up big. You got nothing to worry about. Take care of business and keep it moving. Colin Ray looked really good. That was a huge start for him, going 6 2/3, pitching well into the 7th inning. He needed that one. Thielbar continues to look spectacular. Porter Hodge looked good in that one, of course. John Birdie, sorry to you, buddy. Your 18 ERA is probably going to stick for the rest of the year because he's probably not going to pitch at all when it's all said and done. And then you get Saturday's game. I think Saturday's game was truly just frustrating because of that 8th inning. Just one bad outing for Brad Keller, his worst as a Cub so far. But you didn't get great work out of Pomeranz, unfortunately, to start the game. But Chris Flexen looked really, really good in 3 2/3. He's probably going to get the starts until one of 2 things happen. Either somebody else supplants him, a Jordan Wicks, somebody of that nature, which I don't think is going to happen, or the Cubs add 2 starters, because I genuinely believe that they want to get 2. Now, even if they do add 2, I think there's plenty of reason to believe that, Colin Ray might stick in the rotation even with the addition of another starter. So really big outing for him on Friday, to reiterate that. Flexen looked good, though, if he's going to get the work. Incredible to see him go 3 2/3. He looked really, really nice, just giving up the 4 hits, the 1 earned run, in the pair of Ks as well. Brazier looked good. Again, Thielbar continued to look good. Presley looked good. Hodge looked good. Just a bad outing from Keller is really what got it done. Carson Kelly, Michael Busch, again, staying hot, delivering some power in that game on Saturday, but again, just not enough to get it done against the Fugazi Cardinals. Because then on Sunday Night Baseball, and maybe this is part of the reason I think that Sunday's game was so much fun. I know a lot of people that were in attendance. I believe somebody that's watching along as well right now, a good friend of mine, Mr. Bruno, was one of those people in attendance. One of our co-hosts here, Mr. Bobby Foster, was in attendance. A number of people were at this Sunday Night Baseball game. A good friend of the program as well, Ethan Wiles, also at the game. And they got treated to an absolute beauty of a game. Matthew Boyd continues to look spectacular. Named to his first All-Star team at age 34. Pretty cool stuff, man. Awesome to see. And yeah, there he is, Mr. Bruno in the comment section. Hello to you, good sir. Happy Monday to you. What a game. What a game that they got treated to out at Wrigley Field. Of course, multiple hit efforts from a number of guys. Nico Horner, Michael Busch, PCA, Seiya Suzuki, even Reese McGuire with a couple of hits in this one. Boyd goes 5. He fans 9. That's his season high with the Cubs. Just the 3 hits given up, just 1 walk. He lowers his ERA to a clean, calm 2.52 now on the season. Tea break. And then Jordan Wicks. I really want to talk a little bit about Jordan Wicks because I don't think anybody's surprised about what Matthew Boyd did. I'm not. I'm on the Matthew Boyd train for good. I think, again, there was something to be said about it during the offseason. There was something the Cubs clearly liked with Boyd when they signed him, especially at the value that they signed him at. It's really hard to ignore in hindsight that they saw something there. He's a veteran pitcher. In my opinion, I think veteran pitchers are getting a lot more run because these guys have probably already had Tommy John. There's a lot, I think, that supports the older pitcher doing okay in baseball still. Chris Sale, I think, is another great example of that, right? Some of these guys can just continue to pitch into their mid and late 30s as long as they can continue to be reliable. In Boyd's case, he changed his arm slot. His arsenal got better as a result. There was more of a differentiation between his curveball and his sweeper. And because of that differentiation, now he's even able to keep hitters off pace even more than he ever did in his career, between obviously Toronto, where he was a prospect once upon a time, Detroit, where he ultimately ended up thanks to the David Price trade long, long ago. And then, of course, in his small stint with Cleveland before. So when it's all said and done, though, what Jordan Wicks did was impressive, to say the least, on Saturday. Or pardon me, on Sunday. When he got called up, wasn't terribly sure what he was going to do, right? Wasn't terribly sure how they were going to use him. But Jordan Wicks looked spectacular. Probably the best he's looked since he got hurt early last season. And that says a lot, right? This was a kid that in 2023, I think a lot of people were very excited about. We all knew what the potential was with a former first-round pick like Jordan Wicks. For him to go ahead and come out of the bullpen on a night where you'd love to get run because you used so many bullpen arms on Saturday to get through that game, being able to get 3 1/3 out of him with just 3 hits is better than what the doctor ordered, in my opinion. I think Jordan Wicks was fantastic. I think he's done it. And this is just a testament, I think, to the depth that the Cubs have. They have guys that can work both in the bullpen, both in the starting rotation. fill in these different roles, have their moments of being able to you know deliver when they're called upon. And Jordan Wicks is another one of those guys who we might look back on at the end of the season and go, holy shit, man. Like Jordan Wicks did a lot here to, you know, contribute, I suppose, for lack of a better term, to the success of this Cubs team more than anybody expected, especially given how last year went with his injuries. And he wasn't quite right when he came back and had a rough go at it early this year. And nobody really knew where Jordan Wicks was going to sit. Now Jordan Wicks looks like he might be an important piece of this bullpen because your long guy, quote unquote, Chris Flexen, is probably being thrust into the starting rotation now. So again, the depth is critical and is key. And then it was cool just to see Daniel Palencia come in and get a couple of easy outs there to end the ball game. A couple more here. How about those Cubs? How about them? Stole it. Let me tell you. And Scott's got a comment here saying, stopping in real quick to say FTC and MLB, your cowards put Seiya in the All-Star game. We're going to talk about that here in just a hot second. Jay asks, does Kershaw need to be in the All-Star game? Plain and simple, no. Is he? Of course. And he is because he just got his 3,000th career strikeout. That's why he's there. It's purely for the eyeballs. It's not for the fact that he's one of the best pitchers. I don't really know if Kershaw took away from anybody making the All-Star game. I feel like at least in my opinion, the NL arms that should have been there made it. Right? Obviously, Paul Skeens, Yamamoto, Matthew Boyd, all those guys made it there, and for good reason. So I'm not as upset about that one as the others. But yeah, that's what happens when you get 3,000 Ks. They're going to shoot you into the All-Star game, especially because there's a very good chance this is probably his last All-Star game. I don't even think there's a guarantee that Clayton Kershaw pitches after this season. So I think that's a large part of it as well. For his trip down to Atlanta here in about literally a week. A week from today, we have the home run derby, and that should be a lot of fun. We're going to get back to Scott's comment, though, and we're going to keep this thing going because we do have to talk about the All-Star nods. So these are the good things that happen. We're going to start with the good, and then we'll get to the bad. The good being, obviously, PCA and Kyle Tucker making the game as starters. That's huge. The Cubs have 2 representatives in the starting lineup is going to be awesome. Seeing them introduced is going to be spectacular. It's going to be really cool. I think not only for those guys, but also just the franchise, the fan base, and things like that. You're in an NL ballpark, right, down in Atlanta. There's probably going to be a ton of Cubs fans that travel down. There's probably a ton of Cubs fans already down there because of WGN and things like that. It's going to be a really cool spectacle for those two. But I think most importantly, Matthew Boyd is an all-star, and he should have been an all-star. And I was very adamant about that from day one, that he needed to get there, especially if he continued to do what he was doing, and he did, and he has. Now a 2.52 ERA. That puts him up there with the best in the NL and the best in the league, really. The AL, I think out of the top 10, AL's only got like 2 or 3 guys in that top 10 in ERA right now in baseball. Most of those guys are all NL pitchers, right? Paul Skeens, Chris Sale, to name a few, right? The best of the best are mostly NL guys. Kyler Yamamoto, etc. Kyler Yamamoto. Sorry, hockey brain, folks. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It's been a long 2 weeks over on Four Feathers for us. But I think this is so appropriate, though, that Boyd gets in. And I didn't realize it. I thought Boyd had an all-star appearance in his time with the Tigers because of probably one of the most hated, I'm going to call it hated, rules amongst baseball fans is that every team needs to have an all-star representative. It's the reason that we saw the likes of Travis Wood and Brian LaHare back in the 2010s as Cubs representatives in the game. But because of that, you would think Boyd would especially with those really, really bad Tigers teams, that he would have gotten a nod. He didn't. First All-Star appearance, and it comes at age 34. It's pretty cool. That's really, really cool. And to say he did it with the Cubs, it kind of feels like a perfect storm, in the sense of this is a guy who reinvented himself after Tommy John, never quite, I think, turned into the pitcher when he was younger that people expected him to be when he was a prospect with Toronto, and again was kind of one of the headlining pieces of the Price trade that got David Price to Toronto for those playoff pushes. Never really panned out. And then for him to, have the injury, come back from Tommy John, that short stint with Cleveland where he was pitching meaningful playoff games last year and pitching well at that. And then to land himself a nice contract in free agency to now be here with the Cubs and now be an all-star representative is pretty spectacular, if you ask me. So awesome, awesome, awesome stuff with Matthew Boyd making the all-star game. I'm happy for him. And I think all the guys at Cubs on Tap probably echo that sentiment as well. Now let's get to the negative. Don't worry, folks. I see your comments. I promise. The all-star snubs. And there's a couple. And again, I'm going to preface this. I don't agree with it. The only reason that there's guys that are snubs is because every team needs an all-star representative. It's bullshit because it shouldn't be that way. Just let the best players play in the game. That's going to draw more eyes. That's going to draw, in my opinion, better ratings. Like if you suck, you suck. You don't need a representative, right? Like the Pirates suck, but we all knew Paul Skeens was going to be in the all-star game because he's one of the best players in baseball. Hunter Goodman for the Rockies has had a really good season. Not as good as Seiya Suzuki or Michael Busch, but they're not in the game because the Colorado Rockies need a representative in the game. Look on the AL side. Not a shot at the kid. Really happy for him. Number 1 overall pick in the Rule 5 draft. Shane Smith is the White Sox representative in the All-Star game, but he's got like a 4 ERA. So it's the nature of the beast. I don't agree with it either. I think that's the thing in baseball that needs to get fixed and get corrected. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I agree. Busch is all world right now. He's got like a 939 OPS. He's got like a 165 WRC plus, which is best in the National League among first basemen. He's hitting the absolute piss out of the baseball. I agree. Probably could have been over Olsen. Probably could have been over a couple of guys. And Seiya Suzuki, your MLB RBIs leader at the break, is not in the All-Star game. And I finally did it, folks. You'll all be so proud of me. If you listen to this show enough, you know that I will always see important notes on X, and I will never, for the life of me, remember who stated it and not be able to give proper credit. But I can do it today because I actually did my due diligence. This is from Daily Random Cub. I think everybody knows the account on X. If you don't, it's a great follow. It's a fun follow. It's a lot of nostalgia follow is at that. And yeah, top 10 OPS for Busch and the RBI leader for Suzuki, 100%. The last time, and this is per Google AI, the last time that the leader in Major League Baseball did not make the All-Star game was 1935. And that was Hank Greenberg of the Detroit Tigers. He set the record with 103 RBIs before the break, but was not selected for the team. That is often cited as one of the biggest all-star snubs in history. But now, in 2025, Seiya Suzuki leads all major leagues in RBIs, but was not named to the all-star roster. That's a long time. What is that, 90 years since the MLB RBI leader didn't make the all-star game? Like, Michael Busch not making it is a travesty in itself, but Seiya Suzuki, statistically speaking, is one of the best players in baseball and was not named an all-star. There's a lot of crap that goes into the politics and things like that of how this is selected, but that's a bad miss by Major League Baseball. So thank you, Daily Random Cub. You actually did the research for me that I was planning on doing before this show. And again, another statistic that lends to Seiya Suzuki being an all-star. This was from Jesse Rogers on Sunday night. Per ESPN Stats and Info, The Cubs, 312 extra base hits. Hilariously awesome that it's 312, by the way, at the time of this stat. Are their most ever before the All-Star game. Mind you, they still have 6 games before the All-Star break. They had 310 before the break in 2008. So that's the highest number since that time. And also, Seiya Suzuki is the 4th Cubs player with 50 extra base hits before the All-Star break. The other 3, Javier Baez in 2018 had exactly 50. Derek Lee in 2005 had 56. Everybody remembers Derek Lee's incredible season that year. In 2001, Sammy Sosa had 53. And the dude's not an all-star. That's pretty shitty. Major League Baseball needs to do something. But Seiya Suzuki, at minimum, needs to be there. Michael Busch should too. Because statistically speaking, he is probably the best first baseman in the NL. And it's a Jed Hoyer masterclass. Getting that guy over here for a couple of far-off prospects and a guy that's helping you win now. And then a guy that you signed really at the beginning of this retool and rebuild in Seiya Suzuki, T-Break, who's now leading baseball in runs driven in because you finally have the talent around him to supplement his talent. And I think it shows the importance of having a complete lineup and things like that. And you see what happens when a perfect storm occurs. And that's exactly what it is here. The Cubs have a great lineup. You've probably 4 of the best hitters in baseball in that lineup. Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, PCA, and Kyle Tucker. And only only half of those guys are in the All-Star game. It's sad, but it's the nature of the beast. But Suzuki, 100% the biggest snub. And perhaps the funniest thing, I think Yahoo Sports put it out, a graphic of all the guys they thought were snubs. Seiya wasn't even on that list. Bush was. Seiya wasn't, even though he's leading the major leagues in RBIs. Stupid. Look, I get it. I know analytics speak that like RBIs aren't as, the stats not as weighted as it used to be because it's based on opportunity and things like that. Yeah, but when you have the opportunity to drive guys in, you got to drive guys in. You still win baseball games by plating runs. You can't win baseball games by analytics telling you got on base. If you don't come around and score, who the fuck cares? Seiya Suzuki's getting shit done. Oh, he's 6th in home runs, by the way, too, with 25. He's on almost a 50 home run pace. Anyway, I digress. A tragic miss by Major League Baseball. We'll see if anything changes in the days leading up to it. Obviously, there's plenty of instances where players sit out the All-Star game. They don't go. Guys get to take their place. Hopefully that happens because Seiya Suzuki deserves to be there. And frankly, Michael Busch does too. So we'll have to wait and see what that official verdict becomes. But hopefully it comes sooner than later. Folks, I hope you guys have enjoyed this show. We're not done just yet, but I'm doing my best with the voice. I'm also teeing it up and saving it up for a 4 Feathers episode this evening. We got to do our free agency recaps. So if you're a Blackhawks fan, a humble plug. Hopefully you guys can join us this evening for that show as well. It'll be myself. I believe we'll have a full panel as well. So Steve and Tony will also be there with me. T-break. And it should be a good time talking about everything in the world of hockey. But with baseball still on the mind, we turn our attention to tomorrow because the Cubs don't play today. It's a rare off day, just their first off day since June 16th. Or pardon me, June 30th. Just a week ago, they had an off day, but just their second since June 16th. I got real used to those, like every Thursday the Cubs didn't play early in the season. Now that's not the case. But of course, it's a 3-game set in Minnesota on the horizon. Cubs are completely on the road until the All-Star break, but they will be back home for 6 games following the break. Boston and Kansas City will come through here in the middle of July. But 3 games on the horizon with the Twins. The first game will feature Woods Richardson for the Twins, 4.41 ERA on the season, and Shota will take the bump for the Cubbies on Tuesday. On Wednesday, it'll be Cade Horton against David Festa. And those are both 6:40 local start times in the central time zone. And then, of course, there's always a getaway day game. And it will be Colin Ray and Chris Paddock on Thursday. That is a 12:10 start time because it is, again, getaway day. And then the Cubs go to New York. 3 with the Yankees over the weekend. 6:05, 12:05, 12:35 start time Central. And, of course, we will be back with you following tomorrow night's game and Thursday's game. And then, of course, Sunday's game. And we will have our All-Star break show. Hopefully we have a full panel. We'll see as many people as we can get. That'll be either run Sunday or Monday. I'm not completely sure just yet, but be on the lookout for that. And hopefully an announcement of panelists as well. Should be a good one. We'll talk all the typical break stuff, MVP of the team, things we're watching for down the stretch, players that might surprise us, just some good thought and food for thought. We certainly hope you'll join us and grab your favorite beverage, because that one is always a long episode, and jump in the comments as all of our great commenters like Scott and Bruno and Jay and Stolet have done today, and be a part of that. Jay says it best, FTT. Certainly fuck the Twins. Really, anybody who plays the Cubs will get that kind of treatment. But 3 coming up with the Twins, and we'll be back with you after game 1 discussing that hopeful victory up in the Twin Cities beginning tomorrow on Tuesday. If you haven't seen them already, there are a couple of shows from last week that still are not out in podcast form. Those will be posted today along with this show. So plenty of content to listen to over the next couple of days from us here at Cubs on Tap, if you happened to miss those last week. I appreciate everybody joining me for this show that joined live, because I know it's the middle of the day. You very well might be at work. Thank you for taking time out of your lunch, whether you're working at your desk and just listening along with us, what have you, and discussing a Cubs series win over the Redbirds. I think if it wasn't for the All-Star snubs stealing so much attention, I think the morale would be a lot higher and a lot more F-bombs of cursing out the Cardinals. But nonetheless, they continue to fall. Their playoff chances, their division chances continue to suck, just like that team, because they are the Fugazi Cardinals, and they weren't fooling us with their hot start, because they didn't play anybody that was worth a shit until the Cubs. And now the Cubs have made sure they know who's boss, especially at Wrigley Field. Regardless, as always, you can follow us along here at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. Be sure to follow our friends over at the Dingers Podcast as well, at Dinger Cubs. Follow me. I am at Loose on Tap. I think everybody probably knows that by now. Follow the rest of the gang as well. If you listen, wherever you listen to your favorite shows, you can find everybody's handles in the podcast description. So that is the best place to follow all the boys. And of course, not just the Cubs are taken care of here at On Tap Sportsnet, but Bulls and Blackhawks coming off big free agency and draft periods for each of those teams. Be sure to catch those 2 shows, Bulls on Tap and the Four Feathers podcast, discussing all that good stuff. In addition, the Bears will be ramping up here very, very soon in the coming weeks as training camp is on the horizon. And of course, Cubs fans, you have friends that like the Southsiders. So do we. Send your friends to our friends and let them be friends over at Sox on Tap. OnTapSportsNet.com and at OnTap Sportsnet on the socials, the OnTap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. So it's a very hoarse episode for me, but I appreciate, again, everybody joining along that was live. Double doses of Fugazi was the name of today's show. Redbirds and All-Stars. The Fugazi Cardinals, the Fugazi All-Stars, because Seiya Suzuki and Michael Busch are not All-Stars. So therefore, I will take them with a grain of salt. But they are All-Stars in my heart. And they're All-Stars where it matters most, and that's right now on the Chicago Cubs and helping this team win a lot of baseball games. 6 games before the All-Star break coming up. 3 shows from us here at Cubs on Tap along that time period as well. We look forward to you guys joining us for much, much more. FTFC, FTT, as pointed out by Jay. And as always, let's go Cubbies.